So you may have found yourself browsing online as a music fan and coming across the name Allan Holdsworth. Vernon Reid recently did a piece about him where he said he needs to be in Rolling Stone's top guitarist list. Joe Satriani's listed him as one of his favourite guitarists, as has Steve Vai, as has even Tom Morello. Eddie Van Halen said Holdsworth was the greatest guitarist of all time, and you even had the likes of Hank Marvin saying how great Allan Holdsworth was. So I am making this video to be the definitive beginner's guide to Allan Holdsworth. I'm going to show you a bunch of different clips of Allan Holdsworth playing throughout his life, and then sort of break down and explain why what he's doing is so fantastic and why it captured the imagination of so many guitarists, as well as giving you some context into his life and some of the key facts about Allan Holdsworth. Now, before we get started, Allan Holdsworth was born in Bradford in 1946, takes up the guitar at some point when he's a teenager. He wants to learn saxophone, but he can't for whatever reason, so instead he endeavours to play the guitar like a saxophone with this godlike legato, which he's really famous for. Now, we're going to go in somewhat of a chronological order. I will just briefly do a bit of explaining now that he started playing in bands in the mid to late 60s in Bradford, moves to London in the early 70s, plays with a bunch of influential musicians, but really finds his feet in the late 70s after he's done a stint with Tony Williams in America and a bunch of other guys. We're going to start off with a clip with Allan Holdsworth playing in the band Bruford with drummer Bill Bruford, King Crimson, yes, prog royalty. This is where I first came across Allan Holdsworth, and I just want to show you this clip, and I'm going to briefly explain why it was so mind-blowing and why it was so important at the time. So this is a composition called Beelzebub. I'm just going to let it play, pause it throughout, and explain why what Allan Holdsworth is doing is so mind-blowing. Here we go. There he is. The Bruf, about to lay down some absolutely banging grooves. We've got the great Dave Stewart on keyboards there. So this is about 1979. At this point, Alan's done UK with Bill. I think they've left the band at this point, and Bill's just about to record One of a Kind, which I think is his best album. So I just want to kind of briefly explain what happened there, and that soaring lead that comes in from Allan Holdsworth on what is essentially, I guess, the chorus of this song typifies why he is so unique as a guitarist. You see, for example, I'm sure you've heard it a million times where someone plays the guitar and you get the initial twang when they pick the note, and then the sound kind of dies off. With Allan Holdsworth, there is no pick noise whatsoever, and it is more like a woodwind or a brass instrument where you just get the full smooth force of this long sustained note rather than a lot of individual shorter notes grouped together, which is part of why his sound is just so different and so out there and so unique. So here comes Alan's solo. And what I want you to watch out for in this next bit is how little he's actually picking the notes and how much he's just relying on pure hammer-ons and pull-offs during these insanely complicated runs. So he plays like 20 notes in that bit, and he only picks 3 separate notes, and you can't even hear where he's picking it because the tone is just so smooth and there's so much sustain there that they all sort of blur together in this wonderful, wonderful music to my ears. And again, see how little he's actually picking there. See how smooth and fluid his hands just glided over those ridiculous changes. Allan Holdsworth is a very tall man. He had absolutely massive hands, so he's able to do these giant stretches, which other guitarists would frankly find impossible. He's able to just do them with such ease. At this point as well, he's using a whammy bar, trem bar quite a bit. He ditched it later on in his career because he thought just too many guitarists were using it, and he tried to just do something different. And then we're back into the main riff after this mind-blowing solo. Now, throughout this point in his career, Allan Holdsworth was mainly known for doing solos, and I think that really began to dissatisfy him towards the end of the 70s. Like, there's interviews where he talks about the fact that a band would hire him and they'd just wheel him out to do a mind-blowing solo. But when he released his first solo album, I O U, I think it was in either 81 or 82, we first got a glimpse at the chordal mastery of Allan Holdsworth and how he had a really unique approach in terms of building chords. And this next clip is from Alive in Japan, 1984. I think it's the earliest footage of an Allan Holdsworth solo composition being played, or from around that time or something like that. And what I want you to pay attention to in this one is just what the left hand is doing in how he's forming and approaching the chords throughout this piece. Prepare for some magic, everyone. Look at that shape. We're just 3 seconds in. Look at the way those fingers are spread out on the fretboard. And it gets even crazier. He makes a slight flub there, you can see him shake his head. And then the band come in. And what I love about that first chord there is he comes in slightly later than the rest of the band because he's literally having to pause for a second and get his fingers into this awful position in order to play that chord. It's just absolutely wonderful. The cinematography of this concert is really great as well. There's a lot of Allan Holdsworth performances where they don't really know what they're looking at with the camera, but the Japanese camera crew knew exactly where to position the camera, so guitar geeks like me could look at what his fingers are doing and just go, wow. Fun fact is, this song is actually about Allan's childhood in Bradford with his father/grandfather, Sam Holdsworth. It's his tribute to Debussy's Clair de Lune. The pieces are very, very similar in some ways, but also very different and very unique. Now, at this point in time, this is where perhaps Allan Holdsworth is the most famous. In 82, 83, he was working with Eddie Van Halen and Ted Templeman and all those guys. This was when the guitar scene was starting to go absolutely mad for Allan Holdsworth, and he was probably at the peak of his fame around this time. There's a little flub there again, but it doesn't matter. He's a god. It doesn't matter if he makes mistakes. Holdsworth also played a lot of unique guitars throughout his career, and in this clip he's actually playing his signature Ibanez, which was developed for him in the mid-1980s. It's an extremely rare guitar nowadays, but I would absolutely love to own one. And you can see again that chord, you see there's so many notes in that chord that he's having to play the other note with that finger. I'm just going to skip it back so we can watch that again. I just want you to watch out for the chord where he runs out of fingers and he has to put his picking hand on it. And the motion from how he gets here to here, it's just so smooth. I'll just let you see it. Okay. Here it comes, right? See, he's picking it with his thumb and then holding his finger there. That's just I've never seen anyone do anything quite like that. Now, the thing I find a lot with a lot of Allan Holdsworth stuff is this is the Holdsworth Trio. This was the format that he stuck with throughout most of his live performances. Occasionally, throughout some tours, he would have a keyboardist with him. But in these performances, there's just something so wild about his solos, because all he's got to go off are the notes that the bass is playing. There's no keyboardist laying down some chords dictating where he can and can't go with his solos. So he just runs absolutely wild. A lot of people would say it sounds very dissonant, it's very difficult to listen to, but that's why I like it so much. And you can just tell, look at his face, he's really losing himself in this solo, which is something I think nowadays we just don't see enough in music. We don't see enough performers that just lose themselves in their art. I think I'm in love, everybody. I think another important thing to explain at this point as well is that you may be listening to this and you may think, oh, I really like this, I'll go put on the studio version. No two versions of any Allan Holdsworth song are ever the same, especially when it comes to the solos. He was an improviser first and foremost, and again, this is where he fell out. Every time he got to join bands or anything like that, a lot of them who were within the more rock spheres, they wanted him to do a blinding solo on the record and then do the same blinding solo out on stage so the fans could enjoy it, but Holdsworth wasn't interested in that. For him, it was all about how he was feeling in that exact moment in time when he played that song. We're going back to the crazy chords here for the outro. He's got a pitch shifter on, playing the octave above, kind of a synth pad kind of texture into what he's doing. Oh, this is off the album Metal Fatigue, by the way. Really good album, you should definitely check it out. Lovely, lovely stuff. Lovely stuff, Allan. Thank you for that. Now, Allan Holdsworth was always writing and recording new material all the time, and so there were very few songs that would remain an absolute constant throughout his career, songs that he would play at every single show, which again, I think it alienated some fans. I think it alienated some potential fans, that decision not to have some staple tracks throughout his career. And I understand why he did it, because it was about the performance in that moment. But from the rock and pop background, which where I'm from, you've got to play the hits. But he did have one song that he pretty much played on every single show, at every single concert off his first album called Letters of Marque. We're going to watch a really good version of that now, live in Frankfurt in 1986. The lineup is Holdsworth on guitar, Jimmy Johnson on bass, Key Akagi on keyboards, and Gary Husband on drums. You'll see why it was Holdsworth's hit, because it has a really good riff in it, and I love this clip because everyone takes a solo and it's just so awesome. Totally unrelated, but look how close the cameraman is to Gary Husband's drums. Literally, he's right on the tom. Like, look at him. He's just Gary Husband's trying to focus and trying to give the performance of his life. There's just a camera guy there in the corner just watching him. Ah, another Holdsworth flub there. But again, who cares? Who cares? And again, his eyes are almost closed. He's just lost in the moment of his awesome guitar playing. The signature Ibanez there, same from Japan, I think. Now, Allan Holdsworth played with some fantastic bassists throughout his career, and he always gave his band members moments to shine. It was never the Allan Holdsworth show where he was the only guy who got to shred, and as we're watching right now, Jimmy Johnson absolutely kills it. I think he even rivals Allan's solos at some points. If I'm completely honest, some of his bassist solos are that good that they're as good as his, in my opinion. And again, look at those thunder fingers go with that technique. Just going to skip it on a little bit because I want to get to Allan's solo and I don't want this video to be too long. But if you want to watch the full thing, I would really appreciate that. Right, so Allan's solo's coming up. And again, camera guy, look how close he is to Jimmy Johnson's just there. The camera guy's literally right in front of his face. Can you imagine how off-putting that is for Allan as well? Now he's literally, they've not got zoom lenses. He's literally stood right there next to Allan being like, come on guy, give me the greatest solo of all time. I think at this point it's worth mentioning that Allan Holdsworth and Gary Husband just have this special connection between the two of them, and I think as we're about to see here, it's about to go off the rails, and when I say that, I mean that it's about to go off the rails in the greatest way possible. Okay, you ready for this? And again, he's picking barely any notes, he's just feeling it. Frightening, absolutely frightening. Now at this point you may be going, what scale is he playing? What key is he thinking in? He's not thinking in terms of keys or scales. When Allan Holdsworth was a teenager, he literally catalogued every single possible note combination of scales on the guitar, and he wrote down his own names for all these different scales and modes. I think it was something like any scale that had no more than 3 semitones directly together or something like that, he would catalogue and write down as a scale. So he basically invented his own language for music theory in order to play these amazing solos. I just crapped my pants. At this point, it's not even a reaction anymore or anything. I just want you to hear this solo. Just do my YouTuber shock face. And again, he picked 5 notes of that insane run where he played 50 notes there. He picks 5 of them, like that at points, and he's just, this hand is just off the charts doing crazy things. Now you may be wondering what all that synthesizer equipment is in the back, but we're going to get to that in just a moment, okay? This is what I mean about Gary Husband and Alan's connection. They just fly off the wall. Like, what was that? I want you to listen to that again. Listen to that run again, okay? And this is another thing about Holdsworth. Holdsworth wasn't really that... He liked recording music, but for him, it was all about the intimacy of the live performance. And this is exactly why you could never record a lick like this in the studio, you know, with all the headphones on, all the microphones. This is a live beast. I just want you to watch this lick again and just pay attention to it and hear what he's doing. He is just feeling it. There's no conscious thought of him going, let's shift into this scale now or something. He's just playing what feels right in the moment, and I think that's why I resonate with his music so much. Wow. I'd forgotten how awesome this was, frankly. I queued this clip up, having maybe not watched it in about a year, thinking, oh yeah, this will be a good one. And then I'm just blown away by it all over again. And I hope my childlike enthusiasm for him rubs off on you. If you take anything away from this video, I want you to take away the joy that this man's music has given me in my life. This is just crazy. Again, this is the other thing. This is 1986. We are years away from a lot of the major shred stuff. You know, we are a long, maybe not quite, but thrash metal is kicking off at this point. You know, we've got Metallica, Slayer, Megadeth, all those guys. Nobody had ever heard anything like this in 1986. I know someone will put a comment saying, oh, there was this one guitarist who did it, but I disagree. I don't think there was anything like this in 1986, especially all legato. The solos where, for example, a Kirk Hammett solo in Master of Puppets, he's picking every single note. You can hear that pick flying away. There's no pick sound on this. It's all so smooth. Let's just listen to that last lick again. Yeah. And then we're back home again. Back to safety. And then Kiyokage gives us a wonderful solo. And then Gary Husband gives us a great drum solo. Now, around this time, Allan Holdsworth was always very interested in technology, and the funny thing is he said to a lot of people he didn't even really want to be a guitarist. He was very humble. Like, there's interview quotes where he says, I suck, and stuff like that. He genuinely didn't think he was up to snuff. But anyway, we get to the mid-80s, and this thing called the synthaxe, I don't know if it's developed, invented, whatever. Basically, it was a kind of digital MIDI interface that was for guitar. Like, it had a guitar neck, and it had strings at the bottom, and then it had all these buttons on the side. But the thing with that was that it allowed Holdsworth to explore some really wild and really off-kilter guitar tunings. With this synthaxe, he produced some crazy music, stuff that you could never really play on a 6-string guitar. But the problem was that, of course, this was the mid-80s, so when he hooked it up to a synth module, it just sounded so cheesy. But I love the synthaxe, I love the cheese of it, and I love what he was able to do. He practically reinvented guitar when he started using the syntaxe all over again, which is just amazing. We're going to watch a clip now of a song called Looking Glass from his album Atavachron, and just listen out for some of the wild chord voicings. I apologise for the low quality video, but this is all we've got to work with. And again, a lot of people when they first heard the syntaxe It didn't even sound like guitar, they just thought it was all being played on the keyboard. That's it there. And I just want to freeze frame for a second there and just show off what we've got going on. So we've got a kind of neck with some kind of faux kind of strings on them, I believe, some kind of plasticky ones, and then some real strings down at the bottom, which Holdsworth is able to pluck. And there was also this little device that you could blow into it and play it like a saxophone, which he really liked, although it's not a good look when he starts blowing on that thing, but here we go. I think he's got it in... I'm not going to get this right now. He's got it either tuned in fourths or perfect fifths. Perfect fourths or perfect fifths, I think. And again, totally alien, totally otherworldly. It would have been so easy for him to just carry on making the same thing with the guitar. But no, he chose to do something completely different. Here comes his solo. And you know what criticism people level at this? The criticism that gets leveled at this when I play this to people, oh, it sounds like Mario Kart. And I'm just like, oh, yeah, yes, it does sound a bit like Mario Kart, but that's only because it was the 80s and these were the tones that they had, okay? I want you to just get Mario Brothers, get Mario Kart, throw that out of your head for the next 5 minutes and just try and enjoy it on its own, okay? There's no velocity on the syntaxe, so a lot of the subtlety of his playing is lost on it, in my opinion, but I still think it's a really cool sound, and kudos to Holdsworth for being so adventurous. I mean, just insane, like, he's still doing the same crazy runs. All the trolls in the comment section be like, Mario's just lost a life. I'm like, oh, God. No, I can't deal with this, okay? And again, I just love how much he's enjoying himself. Look at that face. I mean, come on. Come on. Come on, how could you dislike that? What's really funny to me about Allan Holdsworth and the syntaxe, essentially, is when he started playing the syntaxe, all his fans were like, dude, put the syntaxe away, get the guitar out. And he was like, oh, but the syntaxe is cool. And then years later, when he started just going back to guitar, the fans, ever complacent, were like, dude, bring back the syntaxe. So I think in the 90s, Holdsworth returned to a mostly guitar-orientated thing towards the late 1990s. And he settled back into the Holdsworth trio kind of format that we saw in Japan, except for me, more refined. Like, he'd refined his sound a little bit more. His tone was completely different. He kind of reinvented himself again. We're going to watch a little clip of an older song, Water on the Brain Part 2, which originally came out on Road Games in 1983 or 4, I believe. This is in Frankfurt in 1997, and it's just a different atmosphere. This is kind of like we're laid back in a chill jazz club sort of thing. I mean, this is one of the pieces that shows off just how much of a great groove he had on the guitar, how much great time and rhythm he had. I mean, look at that hand. Look, that's not a natural chord voicing, is it? At this point, he's kind of... The very original Water on the Brain had a vocal melody on it, and the original demo version in the early 80s, it was meant to be on the IOU album, wasn't for whatever reason. He's playing the sort of vocal melody and the chords at this point, and look at that hand. Like here we can hear a little bit more of the pick, but we've still got that perfect smooth legato going on. The tone's a lot cleaner than it was on the other clips. One of the really interesting things as well about Holdsworth is how much he tried to have his own sound, which I think he 100% achieved. There's nobody else who plays guitar like this. One of the things he said, and one of the things that he said was that if he ever did a lick and then he saw another guitarist doing the lick, he would consider that a failure and he would have to drop that lick because someone had stole his thunder and he'd failed to have been a unique guitarist, which is just insane. How many other guitarists do a lick and then another guitarist copies it and they go, oh well, they've copied it, I may as well just keep using it. Holdsworth's like, nah mate, no, I've got to do something different. The other crazy thing about this is he's doing it in standard tuning, and I've been saving this mind-blowing fact about Holdsworth for this moment in the video, so for all you people who've watched it this far, well done. Here's your mind-blowing Holdsworth fact. He never used any open strings, okay? Just insane. Again, how many other guitarists have you seen that don't use any open strings? He's doing these ridiculous voicings because he wants to avoid the open strings so he can transpose as much as possible, like a piano almost. Now at this point in the video you may be wondering, where did he get the ideas from to play all these strange chords? And let me tell you, the truth behind that is that his dad who raised him, Sam Holdsworth, was a piano player, he was a jazz pianist, and Allan Holdsworth learned to play the piano like a guitar. Essentially, his dad was showing him chords on the piano, he was replicating that exact same voicing on the neck of the guitar, again, not using any open strings whatsoever, because he just wanted to be able to transpose as much as possible, and he thought he was cheating essentially using open strings, which I think is hilarious. The video is going to get really sad at this point now because Allan Holdsworth passed away in 2017, and this is one of the last ever live performances. It's of a song I played earlier, Letters of Marque, but I wanted to show you how much his playing evolved throughout his lifetime and how even when he's a very old man at this point, and let's be honest, he doesn't look very well, he still gives an absolutely blinding performance to show that he is the master of guitar. This is one of his last ever performances and I want you to enjoy it, but also it's a bit sad, but I hope you enjoy it. They're going at a lot slower tempo here, but he is still the god. He's still hitting every single chord, every rhythm is still absolutely spot on. He's still playing like he was, I don't know, he was 35. At this point he notices his guitar's not quite in tune and he has to quickly retune it, which I just think is hilarious. Like, on the fly, he's just like, nah, let me sort this out, guys. Now, no disrespect to Evan Marion, he is a fantastic bass player. I want you to watch the whole thing after this, but we're just going to skip forward to Allan's bit. Now, before we start, I want you to think that it's a bit morbid, really, but if you were a guitarist and this was one of your last ever solos, how would you want it to sound? And would it be as good as this? Now you think, there's not as many notes here, obviously, he's not doing blinding technical runs, but the most important thing for me, the emotion is still there. He is still grooving, he's still feeling his performance, and you can tell by the look in that man's eyes that he is just loving every single second of what he's doing, right up until the end of his life. Look at Virgil Donati on those drums as well. Look at him, eh? With the backwards cap owning it. that run just there, I mean, even, how old was he at this point? In his late 60s. That is still so unique. I mean, how many other players could play something like that at any age, let alone in the late 60s? It's just got this perfect dissonance to it. It's so horrible, but so beautiful and so joyous to listen to. It's really sad watching this video as well. It's a difficult watch. Let's be honest. But the band are on fire, let's be honest. This is just great. And then we're back home again after a great Virgil Donati drum solo. Back home at the riff. I mean, how cool is that? So if you've made it all the way to this point in the video, well done at listening to me ramble on for so unbelievably long. And the key takeaways from this video: Allan Holdsworth, totally unique guitarist. He invented his own sound and style, didn't use open strings, basically catalogued his own style of scales and playing. It was all about the improvisation, all of that in the moment. If you want to go and check out and listen to any Allan Holdsworth off the back of this video and you're totally new to his playing, I would recommend the IOU album, Road Games album, and Metal Fatigue. Those are the three that it's easiest to get into, I believe. The easiest ones to start off with are those three, and then develop into deeper waters. Thank you so much for watching this really unusual video that I've just put out. I really hope you enjoyed it. I really hope you've learned something new. I want you to put a comment on what was your favourite Holdsworth fact, what was your favourite little Holdsworth solo in this video. Thank you so much for watching. Subscribe, and I will see you all guys later.